Hi, this is Dan Langley for another episode of Eye-Opening Discussions. If you're ready to question everything that you think that you know in order to unlock your true purpose and unleash your full potential, then you've joined the right place. Today, I am with Brooke Bills, my best friend, and we are located in one of the most magnificent structures I've ever seen. It's a lava tube on the big island of Hawaii. And we are very fortunate to be able to broadcast from this sacred place where fire meets water to create earth and steam so that we can participate in this energy. So we come broadcasting with reverence and sanctity and just trying to share our experience with you. The energy here in this cave, this primal energy is palpable.
The energy on the island is something else.
Yeah, that brings up a great point. Is as we've had a chance to tour for the last week, we've met several people who are just imbued with this almost primal fire, this spiritual essence that was simultaneously intense yet reserved and blissful. It's difficult to describe, but it's remarkably unique to experience it in your body.
I've been fortunate to be here a few times, but today's like the last full day that we've had after a week of filming the documentary that you've been working on. We have a really good team, and we decided to get outside my personal comfort zone to come down a ladder to get into here, but it's totally worth it.
It is. And I've spoken with several friends who've come to the island to rest and relax, but have been almost overtaken by an intense feeling of excitement, and some even bordering on the edge of anxiety. So they've had to truncate their adventures early because I think that they weren't quite ready for the energy that this place has to offer.
I say when I was having coffee this morning and I was looking at the coastal line after yesterday's experience over by the cliffs, the power of the water, like we've been a lot of places, fortunately, across the world, but ultimately there's a serenity normally that comes with waves. And even though there is a big part of Hawaii that is serene, there is this other aspect as the waves crash against this island at all aspects, no matter what side of the island you're on. It's a huge force of energy.
Yeah, that's true. It's like as the heat and the lava had permeated up through the ocean and created the landmass that we see there, we just simply look out and we see the waves aggressively smashing into the rocks. And so it's a although it's beautiful, at its edges, it seems very aggressive, and the water is battling the earth and the air, and the wind is blowing through there, and the sun's beating down. So it's a very primal energy force, and this kind of stirs up, excitement and anticipation. And I think in some people it may overwhelm their nervous system. And if you're not used to it, or if you don't have a practice that you can work to fortify or to acclimate your nerves, then they can blow just like the breaker at your house can. The circuit can just pop because the nervous system is just not ready for this type of energy.
Whenever I did not waste 4 years trying to learn how to speak French, but I did definitely lean into it. I thought it was a very beautiful language, and I still think it is. However, whenever I went over there to try to implement my lessons, I realized very quickly that I wasn't near as welcomed with my dialect that I thought that I would. But in saying it, my family members mentioned quite often that they did not think it was as beautiful as I did.
Sure.
And so as I tried to speak it, I also learned when we come over here and we value their alphabet here in Hawaii, it has the same vowel, like it emphasizes the vowels so much. Like an asante gu over in France makes you say a vowel much harder. Mm-hmm. Here, when you say kapoho, and when they're speaking to you, it almost sounds a little bit aggressive as well, even though it's a very native, beautiful language.
I think the power and simplicity of the Hawaiian language is evident by the number of vowels that they use. And so there's less consonants and more vowels. And vowels are the sounds of power. They actually manifest the energy into physical form. And so when we think about, our words do really shape our reality, and we recognize that the Hawaiian language actually is much more efficient at doing just that, then you say, wow, it can seem somewhat, what's the word? It could seem somewhat curt, because it's so powerful, could seem like aggressive, mm-hmm. But that's because there's a staccato of vowels after vowels after vowels. And that is like so much information packed into a single word that it can be jarring at first.
I think there's something to it if you look at the men of Hawaii when they do their native dance and it's just hard, aggressive situation. And then you have the feminine that comes in and gives you a lei to try to calm you down. There's a struggle, something about this energy. There's a struggle between the two trying to find the balance. And I feel like the island is still trying to find that balance with visitors and other people that come.
I think you're absolutely right. I think that's a brilliant analogy, is that it's like you have the primal masculine spirit of the fire that just rises up aggressively. And then you have the divine feminine that kind of tries to taper or to temper that just a little bit and do the dance of sacred opposites of femininity and masculinity. You develop kind of almost a neutral plane.
How many vowels does Dan have in it? How many vowels does Brooke have in it?
Yeah, it's three times as powerful as Dan. That's right. That's right. And so to your point, I think that, we can get overwhelmed by the forcefulness of both the sacred feminine and sacred masculine. But ultimately, I think Hawaii has created a sacred container that is able to house those four elements, the fire, the air, the water, and the earth, into a container that then creates an almost infinite array of diversity.
Well, as you do that, think about the island itself, the volcano. Then you have the waves that are coming in. And then you have this lava that's trying to get out. When you're speaking to someone, at least a conversation that I had yesterday was kind of an aha moment, because as they were saying, and I speak of this often, when people say something, but they make eye contact with you and they're saying something completely different, or they're trying to instill an action that they're not even verbalizing. And I feel like that same type of lava passage was happening in multiple conversations that I had with locals around here.
I think that's great insight as well, is that the Hawaiian language is very powerful. In contrast to that, maybe the English language is a little bit more disconnected from the power that's being expressed. So your words can say one thing, but your intention can mean something completely different. And I think English is almost an inversely powerful language that almost confuses as opposed to connects.
If we want, you can dive into all the languages and when they start, and that's kind of our breakfast conversation. Sure. And it is a deep well of things that we can cover that sometime. We definitely can. But if the intent behind it is love, it doesn't matter how many vowels are in it, that action on that you speak to someone, you can feel it.
Sure.
And if love is behind it, even if you don't understand the language, you could actually understand what they mean. And so knowing that, you can kind of intuitively know the conversation without actually understanding the breakdown.
I think so. I think that most of what we experience in the physical world is just that. It's just material and physicality. However, there are other realms of experience, such as emotional, which isn't on the physical, unless we consider the hormones that our bodies produce and the chemicals that our bodies produce, whether it be cortisol, adrenaline, oxytocin, dopamine. Those are simply physical manifestations of an energy. And so that energy has a certain frequency and it coalesces to create the chemicals that our body exudes. And so as we start to recognize that we're not just these physical beings, that we're emotional, that we're etheric or mental or astral beings, that we can then start to adjust and learn to accommodate those types of frequencies. I think Hawaii is a great place to do that because there are lots of spiritually connected people. And I think Hawaii kind of breeds that type of environment because there's just so much primal energy that unless you have a conduit for that energy to mature into something other than physical energy, it short circuits the physical system. So people who aren't used to that, they come up with all sorts of nervous issues. They get nervous breakdowns or panic attacks. And simply putting your feet into the Hawaiian Islands so that it neutralizes some of that extra energy, and then doing some breath work and or eating some of the local food, that can help acclimate your body to the experience that is the most very powerful location. All right, so I myself, I'm super jazzed every time I come to this place. I love to explore and find all the little nooks and crannies that are there. However, my bestie here had a little bit of trepidation coming down here. Tell me about that.
Coming down this?
Yeah, coming into this location here.
Yeah, it's as we look around, Well, the locals keep telling us about areas that have it falling in to make more lava holes. I can sit right here and I can see a crack all the way around 360 degrees. And this isn't a tourist location. This is a sacred place that most locals state that you have to have respect for.
Yeah. And I think showing the utmost respect for this place, I am reminded that sometimes descending into some of the dark places of our own psyche or psychology to face our shadow side, to look to the places what we normally wouldn't go, that we feel uncomfortable, that we're a little skeptical, that maybe it feels unsafe because we've been traumatized or hurt in some way that way. But I do believe that our healing is just on the other side of our fear. It's just on the other side of our guilt. Is on the other side of our shame. And if we have enough courage to look at our shadow side, to descend into the dark places, that the darkest places is where you find the greatest treasures.
The bright light.
The bright light, yeah.
I'm glad I did it.
Yeah, I'm glad you did too.
I need a couple words of encouragement to get down here.
And sometimes that's all it's needed, is that sometimes it's very challenging for us to face our fears and face our shadow side alone. And it's important to rather than not face those, is to maybe seek some support in that way, whether it be support physically, emotionally, or even mentally. And there's no shame in asking for assistance, because sometimes we feel like we just don't have any options. And if we don't have any options, then sometimes we can just be paralyzed with fear. But having some choices in our life, and simply by looking at something in a different perspective, can create an opportunity or an option or a perspective that we didn't know that we had before.
Right.
And sometimes it's just those different perspectives that can be the light in the darkness that we can use to kind of guide us. And so I applaud you for getting over some of your fears, to descend into this sacred dark place, to face some of your shadows and fears. Yeah, yeah.
As I leave the island, I have learned so much more just about myself and others and their view, and I kind of understand a little bit. I can't say that it appeals to every single person, because there is a little bit of a challenge of being welcomed, even though it's for the greater good, at least in our book. But the perceptions of trying to get down here and in Hawaii and explore is going to allow for a better world. And that's the whole purpose of this podcast.
Yeah. And I think this has been a fantastic episode. I think we've covered a lot of ground. I think we've acknowledged the sacredness that Hawaii itself has to offer for humanity as a representative of as a harmonious balance between two polar opposites of the fire and the water to come together to create an infinite symphony of beauty. I think we've discussed the power that's contained within language, and how different languages throughout the world have different effects when spoken to people.
Yeah.
I think that we've discussed just facing our fears. And ultimately, I believe that our experience is about finding balance, or that Christ consciousness between the material world and the immaterial world, or the spiritual world, and or between the masculine energy that is expressive and the feminine energy, which is kind of congealing. And to have a balance between those, that's where the beauty of creation lies, as opposed to the polar opposites. So hopefully our audience can see where acknowledging where you are in your life, and accepting that there are other perspectives that may be exactly opposite of that. But the true happiness and purpose will be found in how we can reconcile our differences between races, between nationalities, between sexes. And hopefully we can learn a little bit from this podcast and step forward in our life in the next moment and be the best version that we can possibly be. So again, I'd like to thank you for joining Brooke and I in this special edition of Eye-Opening Discussions, where we have been blessed by Pele in the island of Hawaii and its culture. So join us next time. Thank you.